right, so it's been a really big day in the 8th grade classes today. We're kind of wrapping up on our plants unit, and so we've kind of done a little bit of review about plant propagation. So if we can see like way over there, we planted a bunch of seeds last week, so we talked about how we propagate. So propagating is growing or basically reproduction with plants. So we started propagating plants from seeds, and we've done a couple experiments and grown about 8 different types of plants from seed. Today we're going to take some bigger plants that propagate in different ways. So we've got our aloe vera. We've got a spider plant, and then we've got our wandering Jew. We have a variety of different kinds of plants. We talked to the kids about kind of what do we use them for and how do we propagate. With our aloe vera, the cool thing is they basically start rooting out new masses and then grow up a new plant from there. So from this one single plant that we've got, by about this time next year, this entire thing will probably be completely full, or even we'll have to put it into a different container before then because it will keep multiplying itself. So what we do is we just tear apart the different pieces carefully without destroying the roots and transplant those into new containers and keep growing more plants from there. With our spider plants, the cool thing about them is they actually produce pups, which means they'll throw out a little shoot like you can see one here. They'll throw out a little shoot, and from there baby spider plants will continue to grow onto it, so that's why we call them pups. And what we can do is we can just clip off those pups, make sure the bottom part gets put into our soil so it can start to produce more root clump. And then we can start to grow fresh plants from there. So actually, all of the aloe currently in the classroom started out as one plant that came from my mom and has been divided and divided and divided. So I believe this is the 3rd or 4th time that we've divided stuff. So thanks, Mom. Our spider plants we've got from several different people. So Calvary Church was super nice and gave us a big one a couple years ago, which has kind of been our parent base. Mr. Cruz actually down at L&M has a massive one that we've taken several pups off of. And then we've had lots of people around town, so thank you so much if you've donated plant materials or things to us in the past. We really, really appreciate the kids getting the opportunity. And then our wandering Jew plant here, part of the reason we use this one is because it's a completely different color. The other thing is too, instead of producing little root buds or instead of producing pups or just splitting itself, it just continues to get longer and longer and longer. And so what we can do is we can actually trim back the end and stick the end into our soil to get it to regenerate and to get it to regrow because it's a very prolific plant. So all of these are super popular plants that people have in their houses. So one of the reasons we use these is because the kids are familiar with them, or they may end up with them in their house someday, and that way they can learn to take care of them. So once we get them split, the kids will transplant. We got a whole shelf of plants and things over there. They actually started an herb garden the other day too, so we have, I believe, 26 different kinds of herbs planted. So they'll take care of these things throughout the semester as we go. To kind of celebrate the end of our plants unit, we've taken some different plant products and actually used them to create things so they could actually create salsa, showing, hey, here's our plants, here's how we process them into different things, and here's your chance to get to go ahead and celebrate and eat. So we've talked about how our chips, in this case our corn chips, we make basically from corn, which they've actually seen growing over at the Ag Center. We've got our lime, which obviously comes from our trees, garlic, which is a herb that grows in the ground. We've got our oregano, some salt, some pepper, kind of a little bit of everything, cilantro, and then obviously our tomatoes. So we started with the kids getting a chance to see how would you actually use a knife, making sure they could use it safely and correctly. Some kids have obviously spent a lot of time in the kitchen, some probably not so much. So giving them the chance to actually run the materials and make sure they can do so safely, probably a good skill to have. And then trying to get them to work together to figure out what other things do we want to add. How much onion, how much pepper, what kind of peppers. So you'll see we've got a variety of different colors that we've got added into here. Do we want to blend some of the tomato? Do we just want to chop it up? If we don't blend anything, it's basically pico. So we can talk about some of the different things that we've got here. I'm not an expert salsa maker, so don't judge our salsa making skills here. We did it in about 15 minutes. But anyway, we talk about how most of the salsa that they've eaten has probably been cooked down, which is why the color is significantly different than what we're seeing here. So this is the last batch we just made with this last class, and you'll notice the color is very light, partially because about half the tomato that's in here actually got ran through the food processor, and as it runs through there, the air that gets whipped into it turns it a lighter color, and the longer this sits, kind of the darker it will get throughout the afternoon, the better the flavor will also get throughout the afternoon, as you can see the last batch compared to previous. And we've actually just been mixing the leftovers from each class kind of together so we can hopefully can whatever's left here or save it for tomorrow. But then also, since most of the stuff they've had is cooked, what happens is it basically takes the water out as it cooks down and condenses, and it turns it into a darker color, plus it's been sitting on the stove longer at that point. So that's kind of why the color is different. That's usually the thing they freak out about the most, is why doesn't it look the same? And it's funny to see kids' reactions when when you fresh make it, doesn't look exactly the same as when they get it in the store. So it's always interesting to see what happens with like raw meat products and things like that. So they actually went through, got to add all their stuff together, and then after they got all their salsa made and they were satisfied with where it was at, they went ahead and they got some chips and they got to chow down to kind of close out their plant unit for the semester.